Hey everybody, welcome to the Players Take episode 47. I am your host Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, a man struggling to play all the games, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up everybody?
What's going on, man? It's Christmas Eve.
I know, we're recording on Christmas Eve, which is wild.
And the motherfucker Dennison is giving us shit about that at work. I had to put him in his place because we're here for the people, man. Okay, we're recording when we are comfortable recording. He's like, "Oh man, why didn't you guys just record 2 episodes?" You know what? Because those episodes aren't as good as the ones that are recorded on Tuesday because there's actually news that happened. So if we recorded this last week, you wouldn't hear about this news ever. So you wouldn't hear our opinions on it. So Dennison, you do your own show. We're going to do our show. I know you're listening to this. You listen to this show.
We would love for to be a guest on your podcast, though.
Hey, man, he's been trying to swing it for like a couple months now, so we'll get around to it at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, all right. This is a video game show, so let's talk about video games. And this is a show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and your favorite podcast app of choice. I fucked the rigmarole up. God.
Yeah, man.
Jesus.
Well, been a rough week for us.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I did lose my fantasy football championship, so.
Yeah, sorry
I'm still pretty bummed about that, man, because this league is intense, really intense, but always next year. All right, let's start with like we always do with what we've been playing. Montrell, what have you been playing on this fine Christmas week?
Well, since I saw Rise of the Skywalker this past weekend, I did this. Don't worry, guys, we're not going to go into it.
I know.
I did have the nudge to play or jump back into Star Wars Battlefront 2. And I was actually gifted this game a while back, and I know a couple podcasts ago, so I wouldn't buy it. But I was gifted the game, and I played, installed it again, and started playing it. And it's actually really robust now. They got rid of those crazy loot boxes. All the heroes are available on command.
There was a new update, wasn't there?
Yeah. They've been actually updating for the last couple of months. I did a little research on it. It's actually a pretty solid game. They added a lot of game modes and stuff like that. It feels really good. It feels like a actual Battlefront game, and I like it. I actually feel like when I'm playing the game, I feel like I'm in the movies or in the wars in the movies, and it's really cool. And they add a lot of characters and things of that nature from various parts of Star Wars and even some of the cartoons and things of that nature. So I thought that was pretty cool. I've also been playing League of Legends. I'm in the middle position change right now, so I'm going from jungle to mid lane, and
he can't handle being called trash anymore. He can't handle being blamed for every game.
It is very straining on my mentality. I can't handle it anymore. You're right,
man. We just gotta move to Dota, man. I keep trying to push this dude to Dota. he just won't. He won't do it. He won't make the jump with me. He's addicted to League.
I'm going to eventually make the jump. I'm in mid lane.
Montrell. Okay.
Oh my God, here we go.
This weekend. This weekend. Okay, Jet's not going to be around, so we're not going to have to deal with his ass being like, "Oh, I don't want to play Dota. I don't want to fucking play Dota. Let's play PUBG or League or whatever." You and I can have some quality time this Friday and Saturday playing some Dota, and I will teach you everything you need to know.
It's a deal.
Okay.
It's a deal.
Man, really? You going to make this pack right now? Because, dude, I'll hold you to it.
No, it's a deal.
I'm so excited to play with you. I really want to play this game
Dota.
with you.
I had an anticipation that we were going to play it soon because a lot of people do play Dota that I know.
Yeah.
So
and there's a jungler role now.
Yeah,
with the new update.
I may just go back to. I may go like a solo lane though because I'm actually done with jungling. I can't handle the pressure anymore. I tried it, man. Especially this rank this season too when they I don't want to say nerf. They did nerf jungle. They nerfed it hard, but you have to be, like I was saying a couple weeks ago, have to be almost perfect with your ganks and your farming. Because if you mess up and you get killed, you're 2 levels behind a jungler. It's really, really punishing.
So we'll see if Dota's jungler is any different, I guess, because it probably is. It's probably not.
Okay.
It's probably a lot different in the way it works. So
yeah.
I guess we'll see. But hey, man, that's exciting. We're gonna play some Dota 2. Man, you're gonna play this game and you're gonna be like, man, why did I play League for so long? Or at least I hope so, because if we get, I need to convince you so that we can gangbang Jet and convince him into playing. And then you said you have a friend who plays, and I have a friend who plays. So there we go. We got a 5-man team. And then Andy said he would play too. So that's 6 people.
Yeah.
So we'd
Yeah,
have
good
a 5-man
backup.
team.
Yeah.
We'd have a 5-man team. We wouldn't have to deal with any randos, none of that bullshit. And that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
So I want to do that. So we're starting the journey, guys. We're gonna start the journey. You're gonna see it over the course of the pod.
Yeah.
Of the next few weeks, hopefully. So, okay, what else you been playing? Oh yeah, PUBG.
Yeah, that's why I hit that one last because we both been playing that one.
Right. So we've been both. Well, we haven't been playing it. We played it once.
Played
yesterday.
it once, yeah, but
we got back into it a little bit, and man, we were both kind of blown away, and Dennison and Jed as well. With this game is significantly different.
Especially Dennison. I'm surprised he even liked the game. He was the most critical of the game. Because, I mean, we were very critical.
PUBG?
Oh, he hated PUBG.
He hated it. Oh,
we would be critical of the game, but Dennison wouldn't even play it like with us because it was so broken. But now the game, it just runs buttery smooth, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we
it
did run
looks
into
a
like
lot better.
we did run into 1 or 2 hackers, but they're more like we can see them more. I should say they're more apparent.
It's
not
more obvious, yeah.
More obvious, yeah, because the game's not as buggy as it used to be. So you can definitely tell when somebody just has really good aim and when somebody's literally snapping onto you because the death cam is really accurate now. They just improved a lot over the course of like 9 months because I think the last time we played it
was March.
March
was the last time we played, yeah. And, I mean, the game is, they haven't added any new maps. It seems like they've been really dedicating to improving what they have currently, the current maps, and making the game better, which they've done. There seems to be some new guns, but nothing too crazy. So I think PUBG at this point is, like, actually a good game. I mean, I don't know. I want to play it some more. There was still some desync and some weird issues here and there.
Yeah.
I crashed a few times still.
There's still some issues with the client itself, but when we were playing, the game looked gorgeous. Frame rates, my frame rate really didn't drop that much at all. I really didn't have any frame droppage.
Me either. My game was like 140 at Ultra the whole time. Like I never had a single instance of lag. Also, their skin game is much better now. Like, there's actually like holiday skins.
Oh yeah.
The battle pass in this game actually looks kind of maybe appealing now. If we're gonna play this more, I might buy it. Like if we play it more often.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's got a lot of ways for you to level it up within the game. Because when they first launched it, it was really bare bones.
Yeah.
It just felt like a really crappy copy of Fortnite.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I mean, there's a lot of shit you can do for free in it, and then there's a lot of stuff you can do with the premium version that is very doable. It's not like hard to achieve. So
it seems like they stopped chasing the money. I mean, they are chasing money still. They're a company. That's what they do. But what I mean by that is, I remember at one point they were mainly focused on the mobile side. Like that was their biggest push. And then whatever happened, I think that thing that happened with China and the censoring laws. I think that was the greatest thing that happened to PUBG because now they have to get the American side back, or the Western audience rather back, and they have to listen to us and what we want instead of the Chinese players. And I think that benefited us. And now look at the game improved over 9 months. It's really crazy.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what their future plan is after, because they redesigned Erangel a little bit. They added new building types, which I was really impressed by.
Which
actually.
Reddit exploded over.
Yeah, but there's like new building models. Like
I'm saying Reddit exploded because they're like, oh, don't change that map.
Oh, I know. They thought that map was like perfect, even though it wasn't. Perfect at all. I hate the Reddit for PUBG. It's just every time they announce any change to the game, they're like, "Oh my god, this is gonna ruin the game. Arangel's the only map I even want to play." It's like, dude, like if you want to play PUBG like from 3 years ago when it was broken and didn't work, then go pirate it and play that because like fucking, I just like the game is better than it's been. Okay,
it's really.
And the
really
few
good.
times we played Erangel, I was really impressed by the changes. Like I thought the map was a lot better to play.
Yeah.
The loot was good finally. Like it felt like
that's one really big improvement because that's one reason I hated playing on Erangel. Even though I liked the map itself, the loot was always trash.
And even Miramar, the loot on that map wasn't terrible, but the thing is, I think what they've done now is that each map has a very distinct feel to it.
Yeah,
like they're all different. They play differently. Like Erangel is kind of your general battle royale map that has good amount of land mass, but not too much, and has a good amount of buildings, but not too many.
Yeah.
Has decent loot. Miramar's kind of your weird, like extreme on the slow end of the game, where the game's really slow, the map's huge, the loot's not super good. The games last forever and take a while, but you don't run into people very much. And then you got Sanhok, which is on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. It's super small. The loot's amazing. You're fighting people constantly, And then you have the newest one, Vikendi, which is kind of in between Sanhok and Erangel, I guess, where it's kind of in between on size, but it has a lot of buildings to it. But there's some different tactics in there where you can see people's footprints, and
I
people
feel like
are easier
that
to
was more
see because
open
of the
to
snow.
Erangel, to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. I think they made some changes to that map too, because I don't remember as many open areas as we were running into yesterday. It was a lot. So I think the game is a lot better now than it was back when we were playing, and I gotta tip my cap to them. I mean, I want to play it more to really get like a real feel for it, but I didn't think they'd ever get to this point, the point they're even at now.
Yeah.
So hats off, I suppose.
Thank you, China.
You playing anything else? You haven't been playing any Sekiro at all, really?
No, I just really been on like a multiplayer game kind of thing right now. I played weeks and weeks of single player games, and I think I want some actual human interaction. So
I get you, man. I'm in the same boat.
Yeah. So, how about you? What you been playing?
Well, yeah, PUBG. More Grim Dawn. I got my character to 98, level 98, and the build's really coming together now. My goal with this build was to make somebody who could farm high level SR, Shadow Realm, which is the best way to farm equipment in the game. So the character I have that I put a lot of time into is not capable of doing it on Ultimate. It can do it on Elite, but not Ultimate.
Okay.
And Ultimate drops a lot more stuff than Elite. So I've been trying to make a character that can do it in Ultimate, and I think this character will be able to. I just need to put more time into it. So I'm going to keep playing that. I'm still enjoying playing Grim Dawn again.
So you think there'll be a Grim Dawn 2? Or you think the team's just going to like go with another project?
Not anytime soon. I mean, as I said, their next project is a city builder, but after that, I don't know what they're going to go with next.
Okay.
Grim Dawn has sold so much for them that they can probably survive for a few years without even releasing anything. So,
yeah.
And that game continues to sell even now, like well after its release. So it's had a really long tail for them, and I think it will continue to have a really long tail because it just fills a niche that no other RPG fills at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's a huge subset of ARPG players that want a game like this. So it's just funny to be on the Reddit where like every single day, dude, there are new people saying, "Oh, I didn't even know this game existed. Oh, this game's so awesome compared to Diablo 3 and Path of Exile." It's like it's just hilarious. It's every single day, dude.
Really?
People asking for tips, build tips, like how to play the game, all sorts of stuff like that. So it's like it's just a constant parade of new people. So I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon either. So there's no really an incentive to make a Grim Dawn 2 for them right now either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They have a chance to kind of. I know Diablo 4 was just announced and Path of Exile 2 was just announced, but they're not playing in that arena really. Like they don't like they fit within that genre, but they're not. I don't think
this game's more for like the hardcore ARPG fans.
It is.
Okay.
Honestly, I think they will be fine, just as they were with the original, with this game, with Grim Dawn originally.
Okay.
Releasing a Grim Dawn 2 years after Diablo 4 and Path of Exile 2 come out. Where people are kind of played out with those games and are looking for something different in the genre. So their timing, I think, will be fine, even if they release late with a Grim Dawn 2. So I do think we'll get one, though. Also been playing more Fire Emblem Three Houses. So I was telling you, I'm kind of at the point with this game. I'm really enjoying the story in the Golden Deer side of the game, but God, man, the monasteries. I've said this many times on this show now, but I think I've made the game too easy. Like I've been playing it so hardcore, min-maxing so hard that I can literally auto battle on hard and not really have a risk of losing anybody. You know? And being at that point now is making the battles really trivial, and I'm not enjoying them very much. So I'm kind of feeling like I'm just going to try to blast through the rest of this.
Okay.
The last like 7 or 8 chapters I have, and just get to get to Blue Lions and play that on Maddening and really like see if this game can push me.
Okay, cool.
So yeah. So that's all I've been playing let's move on to news. There's not much news this week, but we've got some NPD numbers for November, and these numbers are interesting, yet somehow not super surprising, I guess. So overall numbers for the game industry as a whole. So total sales was $2.251 billion, down 19% from last year, from $2.783 billion. Hardware for video games was $891 million, down 26% from $1.206 billion. PC and video game software sales were $926 million, down from 17% from $1.071 billion. And then accessories were at $403 million, down 14% from $505 million. So clearly the trend here is continuing, downward trend in general from last year. I think everybody's ready for next gen, man.
I just want to tell everybody like not to worry about this trend. I know I've been on YouTube and I'm a YouTube buff, and YouTube gaming right now, or YouTube gaming enthusiasts or people who are talking about it, the YouTube gaming community, are posting these videos about is video games declining? It's not. It's the end of a cycle. We go
this
through
happens every generation.
It's every generation. We just have a lot more data because a lot more people are paying attention to video games now.
Mm-hmm.
But this literally happens every generation.
Yeah, this is nothing to be concerned about. People, the hardware market is saturated.
Exactly.
Most of the people who are buying hardware at this point have the hardware.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's the same with games. Most of the people who have games have the games that they want, you know, and they're
exactly.
not like,
a lot of people are just buying either replacement equipment because they may have broke something, or there are a lot of newcomers who just getting the deals off because now everything's a lot cheaper because it's the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's tons of people who do that. There's tons of people who do that who will not buy into a new generation until the end of it when everything's cheap.
Yeah, and that's actually a good way to go, especially if like you're a single player type player and you just want to play through all the single player games. And I mean, I used to do that. So
well,
I mean,
particularly now with the way gaming is, waiting years to play these single player games, you're getting them at their best. You're going to get them with all their DLC, all their patches. The games are going to be in the best condition they've ever been in when you play them. So it's not a bad strategy, dude. Like, I know, like, obviously people like us, that's not feasible because we want to be part of that.
You want to be part of the conversation,
current conversation. But you know, for somebody who's like single or who's like a parent or something like that, it's a great way to experience video games.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because you come into every generation having a huge backlog to play, basically, and you pick and choose what you want to play at any given time. So
yeah, so I just wanted to get that out there because I have been seeing a lot of, not a lot, but like little bickerings here and there about, you know, gaming's declining and things of that nature. And I don't think gaming's declining anytime soon. I think as soon as these next consoles roll out, it's going to be just as big and as bad as it ever was.
Yep.
I myself, I am wiped out, so I do understand these numbers. I feel like these numbers are a reflection of my attitude and maybe yours as well. Because
I'm in the same boat, dude.
Yeah, because I'm ready to just move on to the next generation at this point. The last time I felt like this actually was the last generation, but the last generation was like super long. I just remember that being obscenely long.
It's the same length. Well, Xbox 360 was out for 8 years before Xbox One came out. PS3 and Wii were out Wii was only out for 6 years before Wii U came out. PS3 was 7. This generation has been 7 for both consoles.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
so it's the same length.
For Xbox it's a year shorter, so
yeah, that
one was really long for an Xbox from an Xbox standpoint, but this one is the same length for Sony fans or anybody doing Sony hardware. So I will say though, like, yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of at the fatigue point. I think I talked about this last week that I've kind of hit like gaming fatigue a little bit. And, and like, dude, I've got the fucking giant stack of games out there for a backlog from just this year that I want to play them, but I'm not in the headspace for it. I don't know. I'm just ready for next gen. I'm sick of all these loading times. I'm sick of the PS4 Pro running like shit. I'm just over it. You know, I want to play some new stuff and games that are maybe a little bit different.
Yeah. And like, just a side note, because I know he just mentioned his stack of games. Like, each one of those games probably costs $20 to $60 each. So please, if you don't game, let's stop this notion, because I don't go into other people's hobbies and tell them what's expensive and what's not. Let's stop this notion that gaming is not expensive. It is expensive. You need to have a job or some kind of income for gaming. and I really wish people would get off this notion that all gamers are just broke degenerates who live in their mom's basements or something like that. Because you need money, even to play like World of Warcraft. You need money.
Yeah. So I agree and disagree with that in a way. So from my perspective, because I'm somebody who board games, and I think gaming is hilariously cheap compared to board gaming. But I'm a psychopath with it. Like I bought my own board game table. I bought like fucking extremely insane board games. I sleeve all my games. You know. I make sure I take care of all my games, which is a heavy investment, money investment. So. Compared to that, like from my perspective, I think gaming is relatively cheap. But the thing is, it depends.
It is, but
it depends on how you do it.
Yeah,
because obviously you're right. You need the console, and that is a heavy barrier of entry. But you can play games in a cheap way. Like if you only play 4 or 5 games a year, I mean, you're not even spending $1,000.
I feel like you can do that with any hobby, though. So
which is true. You can.
That's why I don't judge other people's hobbies based off expenditures, because almost any hobby out there, there's a cheap way to get into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, your initial input or interest into it may be a little bit expensive, but then once you're into it, you can learn different things, learn different methods, learn different things to buy, and you don't have to go with the most expensive brand of this, that, and the third. You can, trade off on that. You learn your craft in that hobby. So, I don't know. It just seemed like gaming always gets this blunt end of the stick with other people outside outside the community of that. So I'm just tired of that notion being passed around.
Fair enough. All right, let's get to the list of games. This is for top 20 best-selling games for the month of November 2019. Number 1, no surprise here, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. I mean, it just rolls on with that game. Number 2, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I mean,
nice.
Congrats to EA and Respawn on this, because this is significant, because this is going to come into play later. This game has jumped up to number 9 on the best-selling list for the year.
I am really glad about that, because that shows EA that single-player games are needed. Because I remember at one point they were just like, no single-player games.
Now, the next 3 on the list are all Pokemon, and number 3 is Pokemon Sword, number 4 is Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield Double Pack, and number 5 is Pokemon Shield. So the thing about this one is I'm not sure how they categorize these games when it comes to the full year sales, because Pokemon is not on the top sellers for the year list. And I don't know if they categorize all 3 of these games separately in that list, because I think if you combine all the 3 of these together, they probably sold more than Star Wars, I would assume.
Okay.
That feels like a safe bet, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But, I mean, all 3 of those being back-to-back-to-back in this list. The fact that the double pack, by the way, sold more
oh my God.
than Shield? What are you degenerates doing out there? Like, why are you buying both of them?
So which is weird. You know what's weird about the Pokemon debacle, or just the games in general? It looks like a lot of people are using the sales to justify the naysayers of Pokemon. And I just... It's like they had stock in the Pokemon. Like, these people were tweeting like, "Oh, look, see guys, Pokemon outsold this," and like, you personally made the game. I love Pokemon. I love the game. Actually, it really surprised me. I was one of the naysayers. I would probably admit that. I went into this game.
I admitted it before we ever started the review. I literally said I'll eat all the crow. Like,
yeah, and I was thoroughly surprised that this game was actually good. But on the flip side of that, a lot of the naysayers did have really good critiques of the game that needs to be addressed.
That are still valid.
Exactly. So I don't think just because the sales are good that the critique of the game is invalid. Like, I think that's still valid.
How much of a shill are you, by the way, for Nintendo? Like, I don't understand these people who are so invested in a game that they have no stock in. They have no. I just dude, for real. Like, I haven't seen this bad since like the early days of console wars. Like, this was really bad. It was really bad on Twitter. It was really bad on Reddit. Yeah. It was really bad on YouTube. Like, I've never seen just a single game. I've never seen it like this before. Like, this Pokemon was like the first legit game I've seen do this. I mean, maybe you have another game that did it, but I mean, even to World of Warcraft's extent, I never seen it. Oh, no, that game had a lot of hate.
Yeah.
There were not actually that many defenders because they were too busy playing the game to defend anything. I mean, the thing. My point though is like, I just don't understand this need to defend a corporation. Nintendo doesn't need you to defend them. Like, they frankly, they should be fully capable of defending themselves, given how much money they fucking make. Like, and how they scour YouTube for shit that goes against their terms of use, and fucking they take videos down all the time.
Yeah,
they're still doing that shit, by the way. Even though they allow people to use their footage now. Yeah, they still do it sometimes.
I know you had to be like a Nintendo partnership to do
that. For me, just stop with the defending of corporate, you know? Like, I don't understand when you're an individual consumer why you're defending a company. Like, I will defend a game, but I don't care. Like, Pokemon's a good example, I guess. I really like the game, but that doesn't mean that the game doesn't have faults. You don't need to be so desperate to prove the fact that this game's a lot better than everybody thought it would be. I mean, yeah, it is. Sure, that's great. But like Montrell said, there's plenty of flaws that the community brought up that are still legitimate flaws that they need to address, or hopefully address, or at least talk about a plan for.
I don't think it should fall on deaf ears, and I think what one half of the community wants is that to prove that, Game Freak, you don't have to change anything. It's still all good, man. But no, they do have to improve stuff. You're making all this money and like you're not improving the game. Well, they improve the game in the other ways, but like I said, there's still improvements that need to be made, and I don't think it should be stagnant. This game had a real risk of being stagnant, and they added some things that, in my opinion, they just missed it. Like, they just missed that mark, because if they didn't add these certain qualities in the game, then this conversation would be totally different right now.
Yeah. Okay. Number 6, Madden NFL 20. Number 7, Death Stranding. Good for them. Number 8, NBA 2K20. Number 9, Need for Speed Heat.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
I actually need to ask Dennison about this game. I think he got it.
So I'm gonna bet Black Friday contributed to this big time, because this game was discounted, I think $30 on Black Friday, really low. Even though it came out like a week before Black Friday. It was crazy. So I have a feeling that contributed to that a lot, because this game got very little marketing. It was kind of pooped out. Like, they barely talked about this game. They announced it at E3 and never really talked about it again.
Yep.
But so I don't know how it is. Luigi's Mansion 3, number 10. So that's impressive, given that it was on last month's NPD pretty high.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So this game.
I think the Game Awards has something to contribute to that as well.
Yep. So FIFA 20 is number 11. Borderlands 3 is number 12. The Outer Worlds, number 13. Just Dance 2020, number 14. Mario Kart 8, number 15.
This game will not die.
Oh my god. Number 16 is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Also won't die. Number 17 is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Number 18, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Wow.
I'm surprised about that.
Number 19, talk about a cockroach in gaming. Grand Theft Auto 5. Number 20 is Mortal Kombat 11. And what I'm surprised about is Minecraft's not on this list somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that one is another one that makes it every month. But I'm sure they were right on there. Actually, interesting. Yeah. And then so top 10 best-selling games for the year of 2019 up to this point. Up to the end of November, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, number 1, NBA 2K20, number 2, Madden NFL 20, number 3, Borderlands 3, number 4, Mortal Kombat 11, number 5, Kingdom Hearts 3, number 6, Tom Clancy's The Division 2, number 7, Smash Bros. Ultimate, number 8, which is crazy because that game came out last year.
Yeah.
Number 9, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, as I said.
And that's crazy because that game came out last month.
And number 10, Anthem, still on the list, hanging on by a thread.
That is wild. That shows how. Yeah, I understand why they're dedicated to this game now. I didn't know it made that much money.
It was the number 1 game of the year up until, well, I think it was number 2 actually. Kingdom Hearts 3 was number 1 for a while, and then that came out. I think it was number 2 for a while, and then until Mortal Kombat 11 came out, that's when it and Kingdom Hearts got knocked down a peg.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was on there for a while, like a few months of the year.
So from what I'm hearing, and in a lot of tweets and Jason Schreier and things of that nature, it looks like they're going to give Anthem the Final Fantasy 14 remake redo. They're not going to shut down the service, and they're not going to shut down the game, but they are going to do some major updates to the game, and we won't probably see the fruits of that until probably till next year, it looks like. But I'm interested in seeing what they're going to do with it.
All right. That's it for game sales for last month. Let's move on to the final story of the week. So CD Projekt Red and the author of the Witcher books, Andrzej Sapkowski, he's the author of the Witcher series in Poland. He's a Polish author. They had a bit of a beef last year when the Andrzej came out and basically kind of denounced CD Projekt Red because Witcher 3 had been so successful.
Yeah.
And he publicly mentioned a deal he made with CD Projekt Red back in I think it was the early 2000s or something like that. They approached him for the IP to be able to make video games, and at the time, he didn't think these guys were going to be able to do anything with it, and basically sold it to them, the license to them, for a flat fee instead of doing royalties, which actually they wanted to do royalties with him. But
really?
He wanted his money at that point in time. So he got a little butthurt by the fact that this game is as successful as it is, and that The Witcher is now, like, the games are probably more well-known than his books are, and he wanted a piece of that pie. So they've been kind of going back and forth, I think, for the last year, and they've actually come to an agreement. So this was released by this was joint statements. So they, quote, entered into an agreement which solidifies and reinforces CD Projekt Red's relationship with Mr. Andrzej Sapkowski, author of the Witcher saga. They didn't disclose the specifics. However, CD Projekt, they announced that the agreement, quote, satisfies and fully clarifies the requirements and expectations of both parties in light of previously concluded agreements. Continuing, they reaffirms its existing title to the Witcher intellectual property in developing video games, graphic novels, board games, and merchandise. And CD Projekt Red CEO Adam Kicinski said, that's hard to say, quote, we've always admired Mr. Andrzej Sapkowski's works, a great inspiration for the team here at CD Projekt Red. I believe today marks a new stage in our continued relationship. So this basically, I mean, this confirms a few things. First of all, the bad blood between these two sides has been settled, clearly. I assume they either gave him a lump sum of money that he's satisfied with, or he is going to get royalties going forward, and probably some back pay along with that.
I mean, that's good on them. I like that they just settled this. They settled the matters. I don't think CD Projekt Red is one of those companies that's like, no, you already made your deal and we'll fight to the grit like EA probably would or other companies. Yeah. Also, I do remember last year when this came out that the author of Metro came out and pretty much called him a jackass, I think.
Yeah.
And during an interview or something like that. I don't want to say all that. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think since I didn't even know that CD Projekt Red was like, hey, we can give you royalties for it, I would take that over the flat fee. But I guess I understand.
He
didn't know.
He didn't know anything about video games. He didn't think this would ever take off. So I understand his perspective. There's actually a loophole apparently in Polish law related to licensing that allowed him to kind of legally have a foot to stand on in terms of getting with CD Projekt Red. If he had been in the U.S., he would have had no.
He would have had no bearings. Okay.
Yeah, he would have basically just had to accept the fact that he made a bad decision back in the day. But apparently, Polish law, there's kind of he had something legally to kind of force their hand here.
Gotcha.
They at the time when he initially kind of came out against them, they didn't like CD Projekt Red was throwing shade at him a lot. So. It seems like whatever bad blood has been resolved, but the important part of the story, though, is that I think it confirms clearly that they want to continue to make Witcher games.
Yeah.
And whatever's the future holds for them, I would imagine we're either going to get a reboot of The Witcher or a Witcher 4 at some point in the future. So that's kind of exciting, I guess.
I wish they would remake the first two games with the new engine. That would be really good.
Cool, dude.
Yeah.
Maybe add some new content and stuff. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll think about that. That'd be interesting. I'd love to see them see their take on that, I suppose. All right, that's it for news. So I do want to follow up on something actually last week. We talked about the show going multi-platform, and I want to clarify a few things about this. So one thing, I did mention sales numbers last week. I believe this game sold a lot more than I think it actually sells. I've kind of heard anecdotally that it is probably more in the 3 to 4 million range every year.
Okay.
At least at initial launch. So it's possible it's a bigger sell than that. I don't know. We don't have exact sales numbers of this game. So I just want to clarify that. And the second thing I want to say is that I've been noticing a lot of talk online, a lot of articles too I'm seeing from like games media outlets saying that this is great that Sony's going to be putting their games multi-platform now. Let's get one thing clear, everybody. Sony's not putting their exclusives multi-platform. This is a unique situation that applies specifically to the show. This isn't going to mean you're going to get Uncharted 5 on fucking Xbox.
It's MLB The Show.
You're not getting The Last of Us 2 on Xbox. You're not getting any of their other exclusives on Xbox or Switch. That's not happening here, okay? This was a specific agreement they had with MLB that they needed to renew in order to continue being able to make games, and that is the reason this happened. This has nothing to do with their other studios, and I've seen a lot of speculation saying that people think that their other exclusives are gonna be going to other platforms. Maybe PC. Maybe that is a hard maybe.
I don't. Even if they do go to PC, I don't see the big point in. I don't see the big deal for that. Like I said, I remember last week we were talking about it, and that one guy was very popular on YouTube and has a little cult following on Twitter as well. He made rants about the show going multi-platform and denouncing Sony. He's done with gaming, and there are a lot of people with that, a lot of Sony fans with that same sentiment. But then I saw a lot of Sony fans were like, "Hey, like this is a perfect opportunity for other people to experience what we love, you know, and everything of that nature." Especially the PC crowd, they don't really pose a real threat to Xbox and to Sony. So
not at all.
Because I think everyone was upset with the notion of PlayStation Now going to PC. I think that was the biggest thing. I think Sony's teetering around with that. They are.
They're playing around with PC, but they're never going to release any of their shit on Xbox. Or Switch.
Yeah, I think that whole notion of PlayStation Now being on PC was really scary for a lot of. I don't know why. Really scary for a lot of Sony. I don't even want to call them Sony fans because that's disrespectful to Sony fans, in my opinion.
Fanboys. Console fanboys.
Yeah, console fanboys.
Call them what they are.
Yeah, and. Like I said, I knew a lot of Sony fans who were like really happy about even the notion of PlayStation Now going to PC and MLB The Show going to multi-platforms and things of that nature. So, I think it's good. I think if Sony does, I don't think like you said, their exclusives are going to go, but I think that PlayStation Now, their past stuff should be on PC and things of that nature. Maybe not all the games, like maybe God of War shouldn't be on PC, but that's like a system seller in my opinion, so I don't think that will ever be on.
I don't know. I mean, Microsoft does it. I could see it. I could see them putting games on PC, but I think people keep mixing this up because certain games of theirs have gone to PC, like the Quantic Dream games have all moved to PC recently, and Death Stranding is going to be going to PC. But
really?
People are mixing these things up. These are specific deals. This isn't Sony making a case where they're like testing. I don't think they're testing the waters with anything. I think Quantic Dream asked. They're not in bed with Sony anymore, and Sony was like, "Sure, fuck it, yeah, go ahead." You know, they didn't care.
We already got our money, so.
And I think in Death Stranding's case, it's more of a case of like they were just rushing to sign Kojima to whatever the fuck deal he wanted, and he was probably like, "I want this game on PC."
And we don't know. They maybe have a little stake. Maybe we get like a 5% cut of everything. You know, like we don't know.
We don't know those. We don't know those details. So I don't think these are indicative of a trend or anything like that with them. I think people are reading into things too much with this.
Yeah, you know how these things go.
So I just wanted to follow up on that briefly. All right. Last thing before we get to the topic of the show, I didn't mention this at the top, but baby, we've been doing this podcast for 1 year, Montrell. We're hitting our anniversary. This date last year is when we released our first episode.
Wow. We did it on December 20. New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve.
It was December 24th, 2018, man. So 1 year of the show.
Thanks for everyone listening, man.
How does that make you feel?
Actually, I feel really accomplished.
I think we've come a long way personally.
Like, listen to our first episodes.
Show sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
I think we figured out the structure of it a lot. Like we've gotten the structure a lot better. We were really kind of big and like we were doing really big shows when we first started.
We
wanted
to talk about a lot and throw a lot of information to the audience, but I think we were more focused.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the show's better. I'm excited for the future too, guys. Like we want to build the audience. That's kind of our
we just want to communicate with more people.
But, we want to have an audience that we can interact with.
Yeah.
You know, we want questions and whatnot. So look forward to more. We're not going anywhere. If you're listening to us, like we plan to continue doing the show well into the future. So look forward to more. Okay, let's get on to game topic of the show, which is going to be our game of the year discussion for 2019. And man, there were a lot of games that came out this year, but we pared it down to 5 games each of what our game of the year lists are. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about games that were disappointments first. We're gonna talk about our honorable mentions second, and then our actual game of the year lists third. So let's start with disappointments. I guess I'll go first here. I think this is on both of our lists, and this is the first game we played this year that was a new game for 2019. Kingdom Hearts 3. And man, I can't think of a game I've been more disappointing by probably this entire generation, frankly. I mean, can you think of one?
No. I mean, you know what? I added one more to that list, but this is probably the biggest one since this game came out, but and I'll talk about it later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as far as I'll say within the last 7 to 10 years, like this has been one of the most disappointing games I've ever played. Because it had an established franchise for me. And I don't think it was. And now that we talked about it a little bit more, I could have dealt with the combat things and things of that nature. Because I know I was really harsh on the combat and the way things flowed within that, and I could have let all that go if the story was better.
Yeah.
And I think, which is funny enough, I think Rise of the Skywalker actually kind of proved our point that Disney may have had a hand in Square Enix, because I feel like they did the same thing with Rise of the Skywalker. And it was not to the benefit of the game or that movie, even though these are two different franchises. Yeah, I think Disney destroyed this game. I think Square Enix, especially Nomura, wanted to do a lot more with this game, and unfortunately, he probably already had it in the works, but then he couldn't go through with it, because I look at games, because I look at games like Final Fantasy VII Remix, a remake rather, and I think he had a hand in making that, and how good that game's coming out.
Oh, he's the director of that game.
Oh yeah, he's the director. Okay, so
yeah,
and how good that game came out compared to this game.
Yeah,
like you can definitely tell where he had creative freedom, and I don't feel like he had creative freedom over Kingdom Hearts at all anymore at this point. I think Disney realized how. I think Disney realized how big this franchise was, and they're like, "Holy shit, we have a."
Well, that was obvious because they started putting it at D23, which is the Disney like conference or whatever that happens every year. They started showing it there over the last few years, and I think they started to take a hold of this game in a way that they get their fingerprints are all over the game. It's just so obvious that they made Square Enix change things.
Yeah,
I mean, Frozen being the number one most obvious thing. The way that
oh my
world
god.
was. But it's just disappointing with the regressions in combat mechanics, even the combat, the story, and it's just, I don't know. The worlds were cool and all, but they didn't do anything like really groundbreaking with them. They were just bigger.
They're just bigger, yeah.
And I think, given all that, it just sucks because I didn't play Dream Drop Distance for a long time until 2017 is when I first played that game, and I was really surprised at how good it was. Yeah,
that's a really good game.
All I heard was bad things about it.
Really?
Dude, online. That's all I read about with that game. That's why I didn't play it for such a long time. But when I finally played it, I was like, wow, okay. So when they have a chance to make a game that they want to make, they can do a good job. It's clear. Square Enix can make great games, So, I don't know. It's just, it sucks, man, because the game's never going to, like, I know Remind's coming out next month, but I don't think that's going to fix all the problems we have with the game. And even if it does, it's kind of unacceptable to me that they have to fix it a year later in a $40 DLC rather than having the game ready to go in a state that is fun to play and enjoyable. So, yeah. Biggest disappointment of 2019 for sure is Kingdom Hearts 3. That's like without question to me. I think a lot of people feel the same way. But all right, next one for me was Division 2. You played this as well. You also have this on your disappointments list. This game was I think it was I won't say overhyped, but I think it was one of those things like we had just come off Anthem, And I think we were, and that game actually isn't on this list because I don't think the expectations were high for that game. So I didn't put it on my disappointments for that reason. But this game, coming off Anthem, we were really expecting something really good in the shared world shooter space. And it just didn't live up to expectations. The story was tepid. The gameplay was good, but it wasn't anything. It wasn't enough to buoy the poor progression system. The boring world, and the boring story. Like it just didn't have
a lot of
there.
things right. I did like how there was your world was essentially your world, rather. Like someone can join your world. You can manipulate the world to how you choose. You can upgrade it and things of that nature. So I did like how they did that, where there's always something to do, and I never really got bored. I got bored with the loot. The loot was the boring part. Like it did almost everything right. I can even deal with the shitty story. It's just like the loot wasn't that good. And then if I got stuck with something that was like the roles of it were really good, I couldn't. If I got stuck with a gun that had really good rolls, and then I got another higher tier gun, I couldn't just like bake that higher tier gun to my lower gun
when you were leveling. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that really turned me off the game, and maybe they changed that stuff since then, but it just didn't hold me as much as I thought it would. I thought this would be the game that would hold me for a while, and it didn't.
It didn't. Yeah, it definitely didn't. Next one for me is WoW Classic. So this one's weird because it's not the game that I'm disappointed in. I'm disappointed in what happened with this game with our group of friends.
Okay.
That's the thing that the game was great. They did a great job with it. It plays wonderfully, and I'll probably go back to it at some point because it was so well executed. I feel like in terms of the actual game, not the launch and all that shit. That shit was stupid, but the game's stable now, so there's no problems there. But it just the way our group of friends kind of dissolved over the course of a month, and the way the people we had 20 people playing with us when the game first came out, and between the launch issues in terms of queues and then our kind of, I guess, indecision with what we wanted to do with where we wanted to play, like what server we wanted to play on, and then after moving servers, the fact that some people thought we were playing on a dead server even though we weren't really playing on a dead server, their perception of that, and then the China thing happened with Blizzard, with Blitzchung getting banned from Hearthstone, and then we had other people quit because of that, because they wanted to take a political stand against Blizzard or whatever. And by that point, it was down to literally me and like Brian and a couple of his friends, and you hadn't played for weeks because of work-related stuff. Like you had been on work trips. So by the time you came back, everybody was done. It was over, and it just kind of faded into obscurity at a certain point, and it sucks, dude. Because I was so hyped to play this game with you guys, and it just fell off a cliff for everybody.
I can understand that. That's why I didn't put it on my disappointments list, because I feel like there was a lot of outside factors that contributed, not to the game itself. The game itself, it was, like you said, it was performed really good. It was WoW Classic. It was what everybody wanted. Just reading the comments and stuff for people who play current WoW and comparing it to now and things of that nature and things they wanted in the games. I thought it was just funny. Baron's chat was still funny as shit. Like it was. Oh yeah, it had a lot of good stuff. But yeah, I just think a lot of outside factors influences the game, especially the server thing. That to me was the biggest downfall for our group of people.
It was
because there were legitimate times where me and you get home, we couldn't even get online until 9 or 10 o'clock, and
it was awful. Yeah, it would be like 10 o'clock before I could play.
Yeah,
so I could only play for like 2 hours. And
exactly,
that was enough time to gain like a level, maybe a night. Yeah. And we have other people who are like pulling all nighters and shit, and they're like fucking 20 levels ahead of us. It's like I can't do that. So
yeah, exactly.
Like it just created a really bad situation. When we switched servers, the amount of belly aching about the server quote unquote being dead was I don't know. It just there seemed to be a lot of disagreement in our group about what we wanted in terms of like as a group, because the queues were killing us personally, the two of us, and they were killing a lot of other people that were not super into WoW, like Dennison,
we wanted
Blake.
Yeah, we wanted them to play it with us so bad, but yeah, like you said, the queue times, man.
Dude, the queues were so bad that they literally never played, basically.
Exactly.
Like, Dennison got to like level 6, and he was like, I don't want to do this, you know? And it was like, so that killed the game for them, and we just kept losing people more and more as the queues continued to be bad on the server we were on. And then when we swapped, we didn't get everybody to swap with us. So we lost some more people to that, and then the people who weren't happy with the server situation, they kind of just fell off naturally because they weren't having fun anymore. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, it was a frustrating situation with that game, and it sucks because, yeah, I was really hoping we would actually, like, not necessarily raid, but, like, get into a position where we were at least doing endgame dungeons and stuff.
Yeah. I at least wanted to do one raid, just like one, just for fun, just for shits and giggles. But, like, yeah, we never got to that point, unfortunately. And,
the good thing is this game's not going anywhere, so we can get back into it.
If we can rally the troops back up together, we can still do it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Game made too much money for Blizzard, so.
All right, last one for me on my list is Borderlands 3. This one's really close to Kingdom Hearts 3 in terms of level of disappointment. Because, yeah, I love Borderlands, particularly Borderlands 2. But, yeah, this game, man, was it's something that I learned. I kind of figured out over time as I got further away from the game is that Gearbox turned Borderlands into a shooter rather than an ARPG, which is what Borderlands 2 really was and Borderlands 1 was. Those games were really, particularly Borderlands 2 was really focused on your character's action skill and revolving your skill trees and your items around that action skill.
Okay.
And Borderlands 3 completely went away from that. It became about the guns, and it just as a result, the game kind of lost its charm for me because it became like Destiny, you know, where it's literally about the guns, and this game doesn't even do guns that well compared to Destiny in terms of like pure gunplay. Maybe the types of guns are a little bit more interesting in this game versus Destiny, but the character's action skills, like basically across the board, were almost completely useless at endgame, and even leveling in certain points, certain action skills were just bad. So I think they did a really bad job with that design wise, and I think it was a mistake personally. And it really turned me off from the game. Like when I think about this game now, I don't even want to play it, and it's silly.
I will say a lot of people that were playing Borderlands, they don't play it really too often anymore. Even the ones that are praising the game, they don't really play it too often anymore. Whereas I just remember people, and this is like way back in the day, or not way back in the day, but 360. I remember going to my friends list is just seeing levels and people who are on level 20 or 30 or just like replaying the game of Borderlands 2 just throughout the life cycle of the 360. So I don't think this game will have that same level of replayability. Like you said, they made it about the guns, and I wish shared world shooters would get off this notion that it's about the guns and it's more so about the character progression. People want essentially an MMO with guns, right?
Right. I think that's what they're losing sight of here. Is that the abilities are what need to be interesting in these characters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you have to be able to make a unique character in this game, in these games, and you don't get that when everybody's getting the same fucking gun drops.
Exactly.
You know? We're all playing the same version of a different load of like this. We're all playing the same loadout basically, and that's not fun necessarily.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing like that Destiny and I can't really say Division, but Borderlands needs to do. I think your guns should scale up with some kind of stats, like almost like WoW, right? Like I can be a hunter and have a sword, a two-handed sword, or dual daggers or whatever, and I don't have the same stats though as a rogue, right? So I won't do as much damage with the knife as you would with the dagger or a knife because you have the stats for it. And I think maybe both those games should go in that route, try to tinker with that route.
They kind of do that with the skill trees. They play around with that idea with the skill trees, but I don't think that's the direction that matters necessarily as much as it is like the idea of each skill tree having a skill tied to it was awesome. It was cool, but those skills need to be interesting and fun, and I think they made them really tepid. Whereas Borderlands 2, dude, the action skills in Borderlands 2 are OP as fuck, but who cares? The game's fun as shit, and it's still not easy, despite the fact that the skills are OP. So you can balance around an OP skill. Like MOBAs do this all the time with characters being OP. The game's still fun despite there being OP characters.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's still managed.
I think developers get like way too wrapped up in quote unquote balance and they lose sight of what it really matters with your game is fun. Is your game fun, even if it's balanced? And I think in Borderlands 3's case, the answer is no, it's not. The game's balanced, but it's not really fun.
Yeah,
and that's the unfortunate issue. Because, dude, I think about Borderlands 2, like Maya with phase lock. That ability is fucking insane later on with the shit you can do with it. Like, it becomes like a vacuum ability that, like, when you use it, it like sucks every enemy close to the enemy that you phase locked. So you can like shoot a rocket launcher into that group of enemies or throw a grenade and kill them all in one hit.
Okay.
Like, there's all sorts of crazy combinations. And then Zero has his like stealth ability where when he melees somebody out of stealth, he does like huge damage bonuses where he can kill things in one hit with it.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. And then there's the Gunzerker who can dual wield guns in that game. Like, there's nothing like that in Borderlands 3. He literally dual wields guns and he can do it endlessly as long as he's killing things. And it's completely broken, but it's fun. It's like, I don't know. So they lost the plot, in my opinion, and I don't know. I don't know what I expect anymore because they're doing DLC for this game. They've already released the first one. They've got 3 more planned. So I'm kind of at the point where I think I might check the game back out again once all 4 DLCs are out because I have the season pass for it.
Okay.
So I think I'm just gonna do that and see where it is in a year or so, and go with it then. So all right, what's your last disappointing game of 2019?
It's Anthem. I've had a lot of expectations for this game because I've been following it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I did consider BioWare one of my top favorite companies. They weren't my favorite like top one, but they're up there. Just for the games that they delivered that touched me as a gamer. So I was really anticipating Anthem because I feel like one of my other games died for this game, and which is Mass Effect Andromeda. But we'll get onto that in another discussion later on, guys.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love the way this game played. It played like an ARPG to me with flying robot suits and the different roles that you can take upon those suits. I think they had that really well. Like when I played the Colossus, I felt like a tank. I feel like I can tank stuff. When you were the Interceptor, you looked and felt like a rogue. You did rogue-like things. When Jet was the Stormcaller, he felt like a wizard.
Floating around and throwing lightning on the ground and shit.
It's like a mage. And then you had to support I forgot the other one, which is like the overall...
The Ranger.
The Ranger, which is an overall support character, but can do damage. So I felt like they had... The concepts was there. It's just... I don't know, man. Like, everything was there, but the story wasn't there. The world wasn't there.
It just wasn't a finished game.
Exactly. And that's why it's a huge disappointment because I see the potential. A lot of people see the potential in this game. Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't want to give up on this game. I mean, obviously, sales speaks for itself that the game had a lot of anticipation. Mm-hmm. And even the company themselves, they aren't giving up on the game. Like I said, they're going to do a Final Fantasy type deal where they're
which is exciting.
Yeah, and I'm interested in seeing what they're going to do with it.
Me too.
But yeah, man, when I look at this game and I see certain clips of it, and I'm just like, man, this game had the potential to be one of the greatest games of this generation, and it just failed. I don't think the technology was there.
Yeah. Not yet, sadly. Hopefully next gen these games will be a little bit more ambitious. What they wanted to do originally was really cool. So hopefully we can get companies doing stuff like that next gen.
Even the lore, even the lore behind the games and stuff like that, behind ththese games, the Anthem game was like really cool. It was almost it kind of reminded me of like a Warhammer type situation. But it was just really cool. But yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. We still got a lot to get through. Honorable mentions for I'll start. So I have Luigi's Mansion 3 on here. This game I really debated between this game and my number 5 for what to be number 5. And ultimately I went with the other game, but Luigi's Mansion 3 to me is a really good in between of Luigi's Mansion 1 and Luigi's Mansion 2.
Yeah.
It gives you freedom that Luigi's Mansion 2 doesn't give you, but it has some of that level design from Luigi's Mansion 2 where things are really insular into the singular floors, like I said a few weeks ago. So I think this game, it was good, but it's not something that was super memorable for me. So, so it didn't quite make my list. But The next game I have on here is Wargroove. This is something I played early in the year, kind of fell off of it, and then finished it off later in the year. By the end of the game, I was really impressed with this game. This game is really close to being on my list, but it's a really solid strategy game that is very straightforward.
Yep.
It's not It's not super complicated. Once you understand it, it kind of flows really well. But I think that's where the game falters a little bit, is that it isn't that complicated. Like it is what it is. Like there's a campaign. Once you finish the campaign, there are some side modes and stuff like that. But the game is not engaging enough for those things to really be huge time sucks, in my opinion. So I kind of hope with the next game they get a little bit more ambitious with some of the stuff that they did in this game. But then again, I mean, knowing the pedigree of the franchise, they were kind of spiritually successing with Advance Wars. I don't know if that's going to happen in this series. So they have continued to support it, though, with free updates. So that's been interesting with them. But I'm sure we will get a Wargroove 2. And another one I have on here is Grim Dawn Forgotten Gods. This is an expansion, obviously, for Grim Dawn. Obviously, I've talked about Grim Dawn a lot, but specifically with this expansion, I thought that this expansion really filled out the missing links with Grim Dawn.
Yeah.
It added one more class, the Oathkeeper, which was a shield-based class, which the game did not really have yet in the game, and added some really cool mechanics related to retaliation damage and stuff like that. It also filled in some gaps in itemization and augments and stuff like that from the factions, so that was cool as well. So I think this was really well executed. I just think Craig did a great job with it, and I think it's worth the $15 that it costs. Personally, you get a ton of content out of it, and Shattered Realm is endless if you want it to be. So,
yeah.
So that was really good as well. I also put on here Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Obviously, this game came out in 2017. It's been a couple years since it came out, but I played it this year.
Yeah.
For a large portion of the year, and I do want to give it a shout out here because otherwise I wouldn't really talk about it, because it was a really good game. I really enjoyed it a lot. It is not my favorite in the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, as I talked about when we talked about that game, but it's a great JRPG. No question about that.
I definitely agree with you on that.
Looking forward to what's next for Xenoblade Chronicles. So what are your honorable mentions?
My honorable mentions is the Mega Man X collection. Not really too much to talk about there. I mean, it's the standard Mega Man X. I love Mega Man X. Yeah. I love Mega Man X all the way up to, I think, X6. And then it kind of falls off hard after that point. So that's why I didn't make my top 5 list. Because I kind of had to judge the whole collection as one, unfortunately. And yeah, from 1 through 5, amazing game. 6 through, I think it's 10, or 6 through 9 rather, it's just not good.
Yeah.
6 is still in the 2D platform, but then 7 and 8 go into this 3D weird space, and it's just not good.
I remember those, man, when they came out.
They weren't good at all. And then the story, it was just nonsensical at this point. They should have stopped at 5, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the story just got really nonsensical at that point. And I just I was invested into the story up until then. They just kept, stuff just kept popping up. Another game on here is Jedi Fallen Order. This would have made my top 5 list, but I played another game that's similar to it, and it's superior to it in every way. But I had to get a huge shout out because the company that made it, Respawn, this was their first time doing a game like this, coming off of just first person shooters and things of that nature. And they did a damn good job. For a first time attempt, they did a good job. I know I was very critical of it, but I was critical of it in praise of, like, in lieu of the next game, because I want the next game to be better than the first one.
Yeah, so this is my number 5. I largely feel the same way you do. I did not play. My number 5 slot was weird because I have 4 games that are clearly my top 4, but then like 5 was kind of up in the air for me. This year's been weird where I just don't think I played a lot of really great games this year. So
yeah, same.
So this game ended up taking the 5th slot for me, but the reason is because the reason I put it over Luigi's Mansion, despite me giving Luigi's Mansion a higher score, is that I just think this game left more of a mark on me. I am still thinking about this game, even though it's been a few weeks. And having just watched the new Star Wars movie, it kind of brought this game back into my mind a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
And honestly, as much as I was frustrated with it at times, and I do think the game has significant flaws, it's just there is something about it that is pretty charming. And it's a really good game. Like
it's a quality game. They definitely put their hearts into this game. You can tell the people who made this game are definitely fans of Star Wars, and they wanted to stay true to the means of what they had.
Mm-hmm. And from a studio like Respawn that's only made shooters up to this point, it's an impressive first attempt. And the other thing is that the fact that they did this under EA's umbrella, given the fact that EA 2 years ago was saying that single-player games are dead, like it's very impressive that they were able to pull this off to this degree. Given all those circumstances as well. So, hats off to them. I didn't play Sekiro, so that game probably would have knocked this game off the list, I'm going to guess, for me, but I didn't play Sekiro, so given that, Jedi Fallen Order is my number 5.
It's definitely a huge similarities there, and it's really close. But yeah, this game was really good. I was really impressed with the game. And that's all I really have to say about that. I was really impressed with it, but they still had a lot of stuff to work on. Same with this other game, Pokemon Sword. I really love this game because it really took me by surprise. Only reason I don't have it in my top 5 is because I played some other games that held my attention a little bit more to it. I always been, since Gold and Silver, every other Pokemon game I pick it up, play it for a little while, then come back to it. That's just how I play the Pokemon games. The Pokemon Gold and Silver, and even Ruby and Sapphire, I play all those through, just like blasted through them because I was so invested into the game.
Right.
But after that, I kind of just like picked up Pokemon here and there and play it. It's like one of those games I just use to chill out. And that's how I feel about this game. But this game had a lot of interesting concepts to it that I would like for them to explore in the next Pokemon game, and I hope they improve upon. So it definitely gets the honorable mention for me because it just completely changed my mind on the game. Like, I was so on the other side of the game, ready to bash this game any way I could, because you guys know how I am. Like, I'll bash a game and I'll try it. Like, I did that with Code Vein and everything of that nature. But I tried this game and I loved it, and I wasn't afraid to change my opinion on it. Another game that gets some honorable mention is Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I was very impressed with this game. I am so amazed at how Infinity Ward made the campaign. The campaign really stood out for me more than the actual multiplayer. The multiplayer was really good, really solid.
Yeah.
It didn't have all that jump pack bullshit or anything like that. It was a straight up shooter. It was way more tactical and everything of that nature. So I really love the kill times in that. But the campaign was just wow. This simple fact that they took off from simple real events that happened and they put a spin on it, and had people talking about certain events that people didn't even know about that happened, and it had people.
So we didn't talk about this, I guess, when you were playing the game on the show. But like, how did you feel about that stuff? Because that was a really controversial around the time this game came out. Is the way they portrayed some of that stuff.
I thought it was really cool to see the other perspective, because you play as other perspectives in that game, and it was really cool to see that. Yeah. I think the controversy surrounding it was unwarranted. Especially with I think it was called the Road of Tears or something of that nature. I can't remember it.
Yeah.
And that was based on what the U.S. have done, but they switched around in the game and said that Russia did it to this particular made-up country. So I guess that was what the real controversy was. But people went and looked that up, and now a lot more people know that the U.S. actually did that to Iraq, and a lot more people were more critical of it. This game was pretty much a retelling of what happened from like 9/11 all the way up until today's standpoint, in my opinion.
Yeah,
a lot of different things happened, and I think the team did a beautiful job with it. I think it was meant to bring awareness to certain things. It didn't glorify war like most games do. This game really showed you like the nitty-gritty of what war can be for people on both sides, people with the guns and people without the guns, and what people have to do to survive in certain elements and things of that nature. And that's one thing I was really disappointed in as far as the media. No one talked about that. No one talked about how this game changed my mind and a lot of other people's minds on the glorification of war in video games. Like, you can make a really solid, fun video game and still have a message and like, hey, war is not pretty. This is this is shit that people have to go through.
I did see some videos of it, and I was shocked by how much of it was like so real and visceral with like the way like civilians were. There were many situations with civilians kind of caught in the crossfire. I thought that's a kind of a credit to it in my opinion, because I think a lot of games don't have the balls to tell stories like that, to really like go into that level of storytelling and really challenge the player's point of view and challenge like their perception as well.
It was the opposite of the Division 2. Like, the Division 2 was like feeding into it, and then this one challenged the people playing it, because we have that mentality of guns being the almighty savior. A lot of people do have that mentality, whereas this game challenged that. You even play as a little kid who stabs a soldier and watches her father die. Like, so you go through these things. You see people dying around you from gas they used. And I just think it had the balls to do that. Like, even in its climate, it had the balls to do it. Because the last game that kind of did that was Modern Warfare 2, where you come out the airport and you mow down hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds of people.
Spec Ops might be another one. I never played it, but I know a lot of details of that game's story, and that was another one that really challenged.
Spec Ops.
Because you were playing as a U.S. soldiers in that game. And you were fucking people up, like you were killing other U.S. soldiers in that game. So,
a lot of people did compare it to Spec Ops, but a lot of people said that it went further than Spec Ops, and that's
That's
huge
crazy.
feat.
That's crazy. Yeah. Because I know there was a scene in this game that wasn't there a point where somebody was like pretending to hold a hostage that was like a civilian, but then the hostage ended up being a hostile as well, and they were like,
no. So what happened was the hostage had a bomb on his chest.
Okay.
And you tried to save the hostage, but there were other hostages around. Mm-hmm. And Captain Price was like, all right, we can't do nothing. He shoots the hostage, or he pushes the hostage off the ledge just to save the other civilians. So he had to make a split decision choice.
Yeah.
In that moment, a lot of people didn't like that, but that's real life. Like, you save one person, or you try to save one person, you can't save him, you risk everyone dying, or you just have to sacrifice that dude and save the lives of 10 other people.
If that was Division 2, you would have defused the bomb and saved everybody.
Yeah,
that's what would have happened, which is an unrealistic portrayal, I think, of those situations. So, okay, cool. All right, well, let's move on to our official list, I guess. So, what's your number 5 game?
Fire Emblem Three Houses. This game really surprised me. I haven't played Fire Emblem since Awakening, so if you guys played Awakening, that wasn't really a good game. A really good Fire Emblem. I was so disappointed in that game. Especially with I'm not really a big fan of weeb like mating rituals, and that game had a huge effect in that game, in my opinion. Whereas Three Houses, man, like it does have that element, that date sim elemental factor in it, but it's just it's really cute and done well. Where it's not
also
creepy.
It's also not important to the game at all.
Exactly, you can go throughout the whole game without doing that.
You don't have to do it at all.
Not just from like I don't even want to get into the combat. The combat was just phenomenal in my opinion. I'm not a huge strategy buff like you, so like, to me, I think this is like peak strategy RPG. But
so this game is my number 2.
Okay.
I think this is the best Fire Emblem since Radiant Dawn, and Fire Emblem has been in a bad place for a long time for me, like 10 years, honestly. This game has saved the franchise for me because, like you said, Awakening was bad. I hated that game.
And you played Fates too, right?
Yes, and Fates was frankly probably worse, if I'm being honest about it, even though I've played hundreds of hours of that game. By the end of it, I hated that fucking game. And most of the people most Fire Emblem fans hate Fates more than any other game.
Wow.
For good reason. There's a lot of problems with that game. They split it into 3 games and charged you for each version of the game, like a Pokemon game, basically.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of the story was terrible in that game, and even the mechanics, the way they changed combat was really, I thought, was poor decisions in my opinion that made the game worse to play.
Yep.
So this game, on the other hand, really walked back a lot of that stuff and brought it closer back to the Radiant Dawn, Path of Radiance era of Fire Emblem. In terms of the way the statistics worked and stuff like that. I will say, the more I played this game, the more, I guess, critical of it I've become, I would say. Because like I was saying, I think the game is actually really easy. And when it launched, it did not have a maddening mode, and that didn't come for a few months. So when the game initially launched, I think the game was super easy. And to me, I just don't think Fire Emblem's very fun when it's easy. It's boring. Strategy games are not interesting when they're easy. I think a lot of people disagree with that probably. But from my perspective, when I play a strategy game, I want the game to make me think. I want it to be like a puzzle almost, like I'm playing chess against somebody. That's what I want out of a strategy game, a turn-based strategy game. And I think at this point, this is why I need to ratchet the game up to maddening, because I just don't think when you're playing a min-max style the way I am, hard just doesn't challenge you. Hard, it's just not hard enough.
Yeah, and see, that was the difference. I didn't really min-max my characters. I did play on hard, but I'm having difficulty with the game, or I was having difficulty ending the game. But I was really, and I did beat one campaign, which is the Golden Lion, or the Golden Lions, the Golden Deer. But I was just impressed by the story. The story was really good, especially even though it was still anime, it was still a good story. I was really surprised at how fleshed out each student was.
Yep.
And how you get to learn each student, and then how they interact with each other. And then there's a time skip, and then you see how much they have grown. Some may stay the same, and then some may stay the same with different ambitions, and then some people completely change from what they were during that 5-year time skip. So it's just, I don't know, that game was really impressive for me. Especially like a Nintendo game, because they're really not really high on the narrative side of things. And
yeah, not usually. But Intelligent Systems is kind of an exception to that. They've always been one who really tried to tell good stories.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's one thing they knocked out of the park with this game for me is this world is so well defined.
Yes.
Similar to the Tellius games, which is Radiant Dawn and Path of Radiance. Those two games had a world similarly well fleshed out, like this one. And dude, I just going through Golden Deer now, the level of difference between the paths is significant. It is not a small difference. Like, the game's completely different.
Really?
You play completely different missions, completely different objectives. Obviously, you're playing with completely different characters, and I'm impressed with it from that perspective. That there are 4 paths, first of all, that are all completely different, and then the fact that the stories are so well fleshed out, despite how much, like, I mean, dude,
and everything's voice acted, and
the whole game is voice acted, and it's voice acted really well. This is a JRPG actually doing voice acting well for once. And
exactly.
That's a surprise. So, dude, I just think this game is like really, really, really good. Like, as much as I do have issues with it, I have started to notice the more I played, the reuse of maps is starting to get noticeable between and I'm only on my second path of 4. I'm sure by the 4th path it's going to be obnoxious, but I'm starting to notice some map reuse that is really not, it's taking me out of the game a little bit, particularly in story missions. When I see it, it's kind of ruining those missions, because it's like, man, you use this in a completely different part of the world, like the same map, like somewhere else for like a side mission, one of the paralogs, and it kind of sucks in that regard. It's really unfortunate in that regard. So I'm starting to notice that more, but that's not a big deal, honestly. But the music is phenomenal in this game. It is so good. This is the best Fire Emblem music since Radiant Dawn, straight up. I'm at the point where I'm listening to it outside of the game, like, it's that good.
Okay.
That is high praise for a video game soundtrack for me. When I'm at that point with your game, you've really done a really good job with your soundtrack. And I think a lot of games don't take that part of their game seriously, sadly. But like you were saying, the characters, though, they're also really fleshed out. Pretty much all of them get at least one paralog, more than one, for a lot of cases. And the supports are generally pretty good for the most part in this game too, which is a huge step up from Fates and Awakening, which I thought were terrible.
They were
in
terrible.
Those games.
They're all like pretty it was just weird, like weeb stuff, and they were all like, "Oh,
Yep.
do you like me? I like you."
Well, Fates was really bad too because basically everybody in the game could romance everybody else in the game, and so there was a lot of just copy pasting the same scenes between the different characters. You would have
Okay.
like the same because none of it was voice acted really, so they were just copying text between different characters interacting with each other. It was awkward as
Yeah.
fuck. Like character A would have a support with character B, and they would have the exact same support with character C. Like it was some bad stuff. So I think we've come a long way since that. I think even given the space that Fire Emblem Heroes has put Fire Emblem in,
Yeah, they got the money to do better.
I'm really happy that they have gone this direction and they're not gonna ruin Fire Emblem because the mobile game was successful. They are taking that money and they are making quality experiences with it. So hats off to them for that.
And I do have one more praise for it. The character design and outfits were not egregious this time.
No, they were good.
They were
Honestly,
really,
I think almost I don't think there's a single character in this game that I actually hate the design of.
Yeah, exactly.
I think everybody had good designs.
Yeah, and that's really come high praise because a lot of the other games they really were egregious with their designs in some aspects. Even the male characters look stupid, and I'm just like, I guess the only gripe I have is like your player character is just like a shell, but they're using it as a shell for you to learn everybody else. So I understand that, but that's not really a big super like knock for me at all. But
no, and I think the character actually has a well-defined role in the story.
Yeah.
Which was not the case. It wasn't done as well, I feel like, in Fates and Awakening for me with the player character. I thought they were kind of inserted into the story kind of awkwardly in those games.
Yeah.
And I think here it was done a little bit better. It worked for me more. Your character has like kind of more defined personality. Some as much as they don't talk, like you can tell by the way characters interact with you that you do have a defined personality. You know? So I think it was done pretty well here. And honestly, I think like just from a like in the game's world, the political aspect of the game's story is like really well done.
Oh yeah.
I think they do politics really well here, which is cool. I think Fire Emblem's at its best when it's doing that. So,
and I know it's not to the degree of Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, but I really do like how they show that other forces moving on the map. When it'll be like between the stories they'll tell you like, well, this army is progressing right here and this army is moving right here, so you have to go right here. And I know it wasn't to the degree that Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn did it, where they had like almost actual
Path
tactics.
Path of Radiance was more in depth with that stuff.
Yeah,
I think, but no, they did a fine job with it here, though.
Yeah, I think they did a good job here, and I really like that because I got to learn the worlds in the other countries outside the world, especially in the Golden Deer Path. You learn about a lot of the other countries besides those three kingdoms.
Yeah.
It's just I just hope I want to say I hope they stay in this world and kind of flesh it out more.
I know, I do too, but the DLC, I guess, is the story DLC is not going to take place after the game's story concludes. Unfortunately, so I don't know what's next for Fire Emblem after this game. Like I want them to stay in this world too because I really like these characters and I like Fodlan a lot. And I think they can really kind of explore the outside of Fodlan, like Elmira and some of the other places that are on the borders of Fodlan. I think that would be kind of cool to explore those places, but I don't know. I think they've taken a good direction with the series at this point. So
yeah, hopefully the next game they come out with, it's the country is way more or even more fleshed out. Like continue the same trends you did with this game and just improve upon it.
Yeah. So, okay. So my number 4 is so my number 5 is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. We've already talked about that game. My number 4 is Pokemon Shield, which Montrell talked about his feelings on Pokemon Sword. So I'm a little bit higher on this game than Montrell. He didn't finish it. I ended up finishing it. I was what you were talking about, where you kind of were like just locked in on this game, on Pokemon games until you beat him. That's what happened to me with this game. I got super into this game for like 2 weeks. And
yeah, I remember.
I didn't play anything else really. So that hasn't happened for a while with Pokemon. And I think this game, it just took me by surprise. Like I was really skeptical of it before it came out. And I was the first person to stand up and say like, I have to eat crow here because I was not expecting this game to be as good as it was. I do think it has flaws. I don't think it's a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a lot better than I was expecting, and it was so fun. I love what they did with the making Pokemon battles like a sport. I really love that atmosphere they created in the gym battles. I even like a lot of the characters that were in this game.
Yeah, yep.
Were really good. I will say, too, I do think this game is kind of a perfect length for a Pokemon game.
Okay.
It did not overstay its welcome. By the time I was done with it, that was it. It was perfect. I didn't want to play anymore, and I didn't hate the game by the end of it. I wasn't like...
You were satisfied with the conclusion.
I was satisfied with everything I had gotten, and it took about 40 hours, and I think that's a perfect length for a Pokemon game.
Yeah, speaking of like soundtracks listened outside of it, the gym soundtrack I listen to outside the game because that soundtrack's so fucking good. Oh my god!
It is really good. I think it's unfortunately though, it's one of those things that I don't think you're ever going to do it justice outside the game, because the way the game transitions between the different versions of the song is just, you can't replicate that by listening to it in your car or in a YouTube video or whatever, what have you. So it's really good, but it's like the game does it so well within the game that it's hard to replicate outside of it, I feel like.
Yeah, that's during my honorable mentions, I didn't praise the music. The music was really good. The sound design, how you mentioned the gym battles being a sports spectacle, like I really feel like that. That's why this game gets an honorable mention for me, because it was just it's a turn-based game, but you feel like you're playing the sport. It's just so weird. Like, I don't know how they did it.
It's awesome,
and the music and the sound design had a lot to contribute to that. And just even when you're like staying still, not choosing the character, right? The camera will be panning, and it looks like it's like an actual
on TV.
Live on TV. Like you'll see the little record button like live or something like that, and it's just really cool. And I'm hope they do this with the next Pokemon game. They continue this trend of it being a giant deal within whatever region they're in.
Yeah. Okay. What's your number 4?
Resident Evil 2 Remake. I had a lot of fun playing this game. I was very impressed with this game. The visuals of the game was like really good.
I mean, it looks phenomenal.
Oh man, even on the regular, I was playing on a regular PlayStation, so I can only imagine what it looks like on a PlayStation Pro or Xbox One X. It really captured the heart of what a Resident Evil game is. It's not all that action bullshit that's in like Resident Evil 6. I genuinely felt scared playing this game. Like, you play in the dark.
Yeah.
The sound design is good. Like you don't feel like a superhero. Like, you feel really slow and sluggish, but you have good control of your characters. It's not the tank controls of the old ones. It's the over-the-shoulder third-person camera of Resident Evil 4, but you're not as super. You're dealing with the rookie Leon, not Secret Agent Leon at that point.
Well, Mr. X is following you everywhere too,
and that adds even more attention to the game. It's just it really
that
amazes
sounds
me.
terrifying. The way I've listened to people describe him is that he's literally programmed to follow you.
Yeah, he is
the whole game.
You hear his footsteps. His footsteps are loud as shit. And then when they get closer and closer, you hear the door open in the room that you're in. Then it's scary. It's really scary. Man, I don't know. The game was just really well designed. They really put their hearts and souls into capturing the Resident Evil fan. I don't want to say real Resident Evil fans, 'cause it sounds like a gatekeeping, but like the core audience that fell in love with the horror genre of what the game actually is. And I can't wait till the next one. I actually have no flaws with this game. Like, I think this is one of the most flawless survival horror games I've ever played. Like, Man, these next 3 games must be fucking masterpieces then, man. Holy shit. Okay. Is that all you got for Resident Evil 2? That's it for my number 4.
All right, go on to number 3, because I only have 2 left, so.
You want to talk about your number 3 or my number 3?
No, your number 3.
Oh. So Devil May Cry 5, it's another one of these long-running series that has a huge fan base, where Capcom, unfortunately, threw the wrench into some things.
Hey, they brought it back, baby.
They brought it back. So I'm on a fence with this. I'll take just to give you a little history. Devil May Cry 1 was sort of a horror action game. It wasn't really like super actiony action packed. Devil May Cry 2 came out, and that game was just fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And then Devil May Cry 3 came out, and it just went all the way straight action. This is, to me, the actual studio that made it was Platinum Games. They were called Clover Studio, but then they broke off because Capcom actually got rid of them because they wanted to make the new Devil May Cry.
Good
game.
history there, man.
Yeah, so they made Devil May Cry 3 and 4, which is Platinum Games. And to me, they kind of started this whole character action genre that really sprung up over the last couple of years. And like I said, they made Devil May Cry 4, which was actually supposed to be longer than when it was, and it got cut in half because of time constraints from Capcom, but sold really well still. So everyone was anticipating Devil May Cry 5. Capcom had this weird ambition to tackle the West and
tame us.
yeah. So they got Ninja Theory involved, which is a great studio. They actually made a really great action game. Unfortunately, it just wasn't up to the standards of Devil May Cry fans. So that's like Bayonetta trying to compete with, in my opinion, Heavenly Sword. Heavenly Sword can't touch Bayonetta, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A lot of people may disagree with that, but that's just my opinion. I played both. Haven't played both. But Devil May Cry, DMC Devil May Cry was a good game. It just wasn't Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
But then we got Devil May Cry 5, which comes out because they made a special edition for Devil May Cry 4. They remade it and put it on the new consoles and things of that nature. This game was such a breath of fresh air. Devil May Cry has never taken itself seriously since 3. And that's the Dante we fell in love with. The pizza-loving demon hunter who owns a business of hunting demons. And they brought that shit back. And they introduced Nero, who's like a spoiled brat. Or not spoiled brat, but he's just a brat. And they brought all our iconic characters back in this game. And they all have their personalities intact. And they brought a new character, Nico. I love her. She fits the mold of Devil May Cry. She makes like Nero's arm, devil arms, and stuff like that. And she makes other weapons for the Devil May Cry team with like demon parts that get off of major bosses. And it's just a breath of fresh air. The soundtrack's good. Then you can go back and, if you don't like the current soundtrack, you can get the past game soundtrack. It was really a really good call to the franchise, a celebration of the franchise as a whole. And then at the end of the game, like it was a really good sending off that Dante had to Nero for him to take up the mantle of Devil May Cry while him and Virgil do other stuff. So I just think the game, and then as far as the gameplay itself, it was really fast, action packed. You can tell they listened to the fans when they made this game because a lot of things that were really hard to do, like jump canceling, it's kind of easier in this game. So a lot of fans can do more and express more with your character. So, because I mentioned in a couple weeks ago or months ago when this game came out, a good action game to me is almost about character expression. You can express yourself through the character, and there are so many different combat vids of people doing different things.
That's an interesting concept. I think about that with like God of War. That's an interesting one. Yeah. I can see what you're talking about there.
Yeah, and you can express yourself with just the action, how you want to move and things of that nature. And this game does such a good job. All the tools they give you and how they teach you how to play the game and the difficulties they have. And it's one of the best character action games of this decade, in my opinion. Like, it's really up there. They did a really good job. Platinum Games have really good games like Astral Chain and Bayonetta, but to me, this game, they wouldn't. This game, Devil May Cry, is the reason these type of games exist. Those type of games exist. Even though this game wasn't made by Platinum Games, it was still made by the core Capcom team, and the guy who worked on Devil May Cry 1. With Platinum, or Devil May Cry 1 and Devil May Cry 3 and 4 with Platinum Games. At the time, they were called Clover Studios. He was the head of this game, so he knew what to do in order to make this game fun and wacky and not take itself too seriously. And I really appreciate that about this game, because sometimes we don't need a super serious game. Sometimes I just want to jump to a game and just get crazy.
For sure, man. I love goofy games. Particularly like action games that are goofy. Because I remember like Beautiful Joe, man. That game was.
He actually made. That's the same. They made Clover Studios made that game, which is now called Platinum Games, but they made that game too. So
yeah, man, I remember that game is so goofy, dude. It's but it's so charming because of it, So
yeah,
I love that. I love that in games. I wish more games actually would try to legitimately try to be funny.
Yeah,
I think a lot of games are scared to try and do that because they don't think they can do it well. But man, a funny game is it enhances the experience for sure.
Yeah, it does.
So, all right. My number 3 is Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark. I've talked about this game quite a bit. It's kind of a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics, but it does a lot of things differently in this game. And honestly, the biggest thing, there's 2 things with this game that I think are really big takeaways for me of why I liked it so much. I think the game's story is really, really, really good. Actually, it's like surprisingly good for a game. I think this game was only made by 2 people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't the game only made by 2 people?
Yeah, it's really well written from that perspective. I think the characters are really well defined. They have really well defined personalities, and they stick to those personalities pretty much to a T. But the world itself is also just really, really interesting. It's a world where there was this kind of cataclysmic event, and there was this group of people called the Immortals. They saved everyone, basically.
Okay.
They stopped this cataclysm from happening. I think there were 9 of them, and basically they quote unquote became immortal once they did this. And when that happened, they established a council, and that is the governing body for this place that the game takes place in. And the game is centered around a character called she's an arbiter, and her what the arbiters are basically the people who they work for the Immortal Council, and they kind of execute their will. They kind of work outside the law for the most part. They still have to adhere to the law, but they'll get assigned missions and things like that where they'll have to do things for the council, and if that's the case, they can kind of operate outside the law a lot of the time.
Sound like the Spectre in Mass Effect.
But the thing is, one of the council members, the Immortals, steps down, and this has happened a few times. But when this happens in the game world, basically a tournament happens, essentially, where every Immortal that's existing on the current council, including the one who's retiring, gets to nominate a person, whoever they want. It can be an arbiter or a regular person, and that person becomes a quote-unquote marked. And this is the, quote, Arbiter's Mark that the game is named after. And that person with a mark, they get special powers with this marking. But what happens is they have to go on a journey and go to these 4 temples throughout the landmass and absorb power from these relics or whatever. And when you do that, after you do that, you have to go to the capital city where the Immortal Council is. And the first person to do that basically becomes the next Immortal. They're the one who becomes the Immortal that joins the council in the place of the person who steps down. But the thing with this is there aren't really rules to this. Once you become a marked, you completely get to operate outside of the law. Like, literally, the laws don't apply to you, period. Like, you can literally murder people and do whatever you want. And some people take this to an extreme more than other characters, and it's really interesting to see that kind of explored within the game. But the thing is, the other thing with this is that the other 8 people that were nominated are your competitors within this, so they will try to kill each other. There's a whole ton of intrigue between the marked within the game, so I just think that whole concept in general is really cool, and the concept of the Immortal Council is really interesting because there's a lot of politics between the 9 of them that plays out within the game. That kind of plays out above your character's head sometimes, but your character's like trying to influence things within that as well while they're on their journey. So
sounds really Game of Thrones-ish.
It is a little bit, and it's surprisingly engaging from that perspective. I think the other thing is the combat in this game is really good. I really enjoy the turn-based nature of this game. Tactics are really important in this game, where you position yourself, how you utilize your characters against the enemy, and knowing what they're capable of is really valuable in this game because it's very small skirmishes. It's like 6-on-7 kind of thing. It's not like Fire Emblem where it's like 15 on 15 or 15 on like 40 or whatever in that game. It's very small, tight-knit skirmishes, so positioning matters way more than it does in Fire Emblem, and it matters a lot in Fire Emblem, so you can imagine how intense these can get. But I will say that the one thing in this game I think that I have started to grate on me a little bit is I think character progression in this game is kind of done in a really weird, obtuse way, where the game encourages you to switch classes all the time with your characters, because when you master a class, you get bonus stats permanently to the character who masters the class.
Okay.
But the game restricts you to only being able to utilize the skills from 2 classes at a time, the one you're currently in and then one other one. So what this ends up doing is you have these really hackneyed builds that you are kind of playing the game with because you're trying to level up and master a bunch of different classes to get stats, but you're not able to then make these like uber characters at the same time, because there are combinations of classes that are really crazy good in this game. But given the fact that I'm like chasing all these mastery bonuses, kind of means that I'm not abusing those crazy combinations. So I think the game's like kind of fighting itself with its progression sometimes in that sense. So I think it's something that like I enjoy, but I don't enjoy at the same time. You know.
Okay.
I don't know how you fix this within the game they made, but that's probably the biggest flaw I have with it. I just think it's so conflicted in terms of progression. But I do think the game overall is really solid, though. If you like Final Fantasy Tactics, this game is right up your alley. This is the best spiritual successor we've ever had to that game.
Wow.
In my opinion, and it's I mean it's in my, I don't know if it's in my top 5 of tactical games all time, but it's somewhere in it's in that top whatever list.
It's in that realm.
It's in that top tier. Yeah, it's kind of in that it's in that realm. So I highly recommend this game. I mean, I think it's only $25 on PSN. You could probably get it on sale for way cheaper at this point.
Okay.
So highly recommend this game for those of you strategy fans out there. So that's my number 3. As I already said, my number 2 is Fire Emblem. So what is your number 2, sir?
All right, so my number 2 is Sekiro. This game, if I was talking about Jedi Fallen Order being on my top 5, and I played this game just for shits and giggles because I wasn't really frustrated with. I was frustrated with Jedi Fallen Order because I knew there was a game out there that can do it better. And when I was playing Jedi Fallen Order, it reminded me so much of Sekiro. Just the gameplay I did see, I decided to jump into Sekiro, and when I played this game, it blew me away. It's a better Fallen Order. It genuinely is. Not only that, but From Software, they have this thing where they're really polished in what they do in their craft, and it shows. The parrying system is phenomenal. The hitboxes are phenomenal. There are genuine times where I thought I got hit because like just video game hitbox bullshit, and no, I didn't get hit because it was like literally like a sliver of a hair. The sword missed me or whatever.
Wow.
It's really good. It's not difficult. It is difficult, but the game teaches you how to play it just by playing it. You will die 40 or 50 times or whatever to certain characters and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But it's not because of video game bullshit. It's because you're just like, I know I can do better. Like I can do better. And,
get good, man.
Yeah, get good. And the bosses in this game, especially the human bosses, like they really feel like they have, like the AI learns what you're doing. It just really feels, once you learn a rhythm and pattern, you can beat them because they're AI opponents and they're supposed to be beaten by the player. But they do it so well where it feels like you're actually playing against it's a swordsman like combat. You actually feel like you're a swordsman in feudal Japan fighting other samurai. It's really cool. I do remember I said that, at the beginning of the game, I felt really weak. You really don't necessarily get too many power-ups. You get maybe 1 stat bonus every boss fight. You get a attack stat increase.
Yep.
I feel like, and I don't want to sound like super anime-ish, but the real stat bonus is you. Like, you. Well, you learn how to play the game better.
Yeah,
you can start breezing through certain enemies because you just know how to play the game better. I progressively got better as a player throughout the game. At first, it's like a kind of a pseudo stealth game, so you can stealth around enemies and things of that nature, or you can just go in there straight up and try to fight them.
Yeah.
I was really being really stealthy at the beginning of the game, but then at one point I just start breezing. You go back. It's an open world game. I call it like an open linear game. Uh, and traversing is really great in the game as well.
Mm-hmm.
The story is really great, but like I said, I was going through certain parts of the game where I'll go back to certain areas and I'm just breezing through. I'm fighting everyone in the area because I'm that skilled and I have the tools now. You do get tools. You do get some shinobi skills for your prosthetic that help you out, but I don't really use them that much. I just use my sword a lot of the time.
Well, that isn't that the kind of the beautiful thing about From Software games, and I think Neo did this as well to a lesser extent. Is like that it's such a meta thing that they do with the design of their games, but
Yeah.
it's you do level up and you do get some power ups here and there, but the main thing that is that you get better.
Yeah.
And you getting better makes the game easier, and it's like it's such a weird thing to say because most games do not approach progression that way.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It is so satisfying. There's just no feeling like it in video games, really. Like they did that. They do that so perfectly. Even in the short amount of time that I played some of their games, it's like I played Dark Souls 3 for maybe 20 hours, but I felt that that kind of design in that game, and it really shows, and it's like it's a credit to them that they continue to be able to pull that off because most companies can't replicate it, like I don't think Fallen Order replicated it personally.
It didn't really replicate that. It tried to replicate it in Fallen Order, but it didn't do it.
It just fell short though.
Yeah, in this game, I feel like if you like Bloodborne, you like Dark Souls, they took the best elements of that game and just made this game even better. Even the story is really good. The characters are really fleshed out.
Yeah.
Even your character, who's like almost, I don't want to say he's a silent protagonist. He does talk a lot, but not as much as you think.
Yeah.
He has a personality and everything of that nature. And there's twists and turns throughout the thing, and there's certain characters that you have that you come to have a relationship with, and then certain things happen, and it's just like you don't see it coming.
Yeah.
It's just it's a really beautiful and quiet game, like, but it's really action packed at the same time. You get rewarded for exploring. The level design is really good in this game. They reward you for exploring every nook and cranny of this map. They reward you for talking to the NPCs that are on the map because certain things happen. You can buy certain things that affect the ending of the game and things of that nature. I haven't beaten the game, but I'm probably like 85% there already now. But I have heard there are different endings to the game depending on the NPCs you talk to and things of that nature.
That's cool.
Even the dying mechanic affects the world around you and things of that nature. In an interesting way, not in a major way, so don't be afraid of dying, but it's just an interesting little tidbit they put in there. I think this game won Game of the Year as far as like the Game Awards, and I think it was actually well deserved because it's just a very, very beautiful game. And even the boss fights, like this is the first time in a while, like I haven't felt this way since I was maybe a kid playing Devil May Cry 3 maybe, where I literally jumped for joy when I beat a boss. I was like, fuck yeah! I was like, it was like 3:00 in the morning. I was like, fuck yeah!
Yeah, man.
And I beat it. And
I know that feeling too.
Yeah, man. And I haven't got that feeling in a while. And I was like, holy shit! Like, this is a really good game.
Yeah, you. I mean, I don't know. This is like I don't know. I don't know how to frame this. It's one of those things when you've played as many video games as Montrell and I have. You've kind of seen everything at a certain point.
Yeah, exactly.
And most things don't get you excited anymore, even if a game is really good. Like, they don't get you excited to that degree where you feel like you really overcame something hard. Most games are not designed to be that difficult, and to get that feeling in a game is really something special at this point, I think, for us. It's hard to achieve, I would say.
Yeah, and that's what made this game really special for me because, like you said, you actually hit the nail on the head. I was trying to figure out for a while why this game was so special, and you just actually made me realize it. I have seen almost everything, and this game literally challenged me. I wasn't bored with it. It challenged me more to the degree of Devil May Cry 5. Like, Devil May Cry 5, even though I love that game, once you get in the rhythm of the game, you know that game. But this game, it was just like it challenged me every way. And I thought I knew everything. I thought I was like, man, I played Bloodborne. I played all
Mm-hmm.
the Dark Souls games. I played Jedi Fallen Order. I didn't play Neo, but I played a little bit of it, and I know these type of games. So just coming from that history, I'm like, this game's gonna be a breeze. And then
Mm-hmm.
it just completely beat my ass into submission. It was like, no, you're gonna learn how to play me, and you're gonna learn it well.
Boy,
Yeah.
sit down.
And that's another thing too. I had to learn how to play the game. The
Yeah,
game had
yeah.
to learn me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had to bend to the will of the game of the game's worlds and its rules. It wasn't designed with me in mind. It was designed with the creators in mind. Like, you're playing in our world. This is
Yep.
our world. You're not going to adjust it for anything. There are no easy difficulties. There are no hard difficulties. This is the game, and this is what it is. Now you take it or leave it. And I like that. I like that design. And the simple
Mm-hmm.
fact that they have a new game plus and new game plus 7, 8, 9, like
Yeah.
they make the game progressively harder for you. And I love that design. That's one thing to me Jedi Fallen Order didn't have was a new game plus, which they should have added.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I can take my rewards from my first playthrough, and I get rewarded by playing through the same game as a better character, but also the enemies are harder. So that's why this game gets number 2. I would have gave it number 1, but we are.
Well, let's get to number one because we disagree with the Game Awards and most other people on the planet because we give the same game our number one, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and
Holy shit! Because we,
my God, we lost 2 months of our lives to this game, Montrell. Dude, you and I were basically married for 2 months. I think your girlfriend and my wife were just like, "Oh, you're playing that game again? Like, like why doesn't Montrell just stay with you?" And fucking, it's like it was ridiculous. We were playing this game nightly for 2 straight months from
yes,
September, basically when it came out, like a week after it came out, all the way through middle of November. I didn't play anything else.
yeah,
Like literally didn't play anything else.
we didn't.
It was bonkers and for good reason because this game is phenomenal. It basically fixes every issue that Monster Hunter World had for me
Yes,
and then layers things on top of that that makes it even better. It's just I can't say enough about this game. Like this game is
we went into
something
this
incredible.
game so I don't want to say negatively, but we
Cynical.
did. Yeah, we were really cynical with this game. Because
I was gonna skip it. I wasn't gonna play it, dude.
Yeah, he was gonna skip it. I remember
Until
you
you
saying that.
got it, I was planning on skipping it entirely. I didn't because I didn't get it until a week after it came out because you had gotten it and then you kind of convinced me to get it.
And you know what? I don't. Was that last year? No, that was this year. So another game think we missed. Was that this year or last year? When did Monster Hunter Generations come out?
That
Was
was
that last year?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we came off of Monster Hunter Generations, and that game was a celebration of the franchise of the old style of Monster Hunter. Had every monster in there, had new styles and things of that nature. So we were coming off of that. Coming back to World, going from World to that, and then coming back to World, we thought World was going to be stale because it had just nothing but these dragon monsters, and
Right.
it just felt really bare bones as far as that. But Iceborne, man, it really upped the ante on the monsters.
They like doubled the monster count in Iceborne. It's fucking
in
insanity.
a year,
No, year and a half.
a year and a half.
Year and 8 months actually. So about 20 months or so. But the thing is, they added so many monsters from the rest of the franchise into this game that like Glavenus. You had like Glavenus, Tigrex,
Brachiodos.
Brachydios, yeah. Zynogur. I mean, it's just so many.
Yeah,
So many of the mainstays for Monster Hunter at this point that are in every game, they finally added them to this game, and they added them wonderfully. Like they fit World so well. Like I was talking about, like dude, fighting Zynogur in Monster Hunter World is one of the best monster fighting experiences because that monster is really fast. It hits you really hard.
Yep.
It's a quick fight where you need to be very quick with your dodges and moves. And fighting that thing with dual blades is really satisfying because it's speed on speed, kind of fight.
Yeah.
And I think even a monster like Tigrex, as annoying as he was in Generations, I actually don't think he was anywhere near as annoying in this game.
Yeah.
He's still annoying, but like he's you can deal with him in Monster Hunter World because
we bitched about him a lot, but
your
that's
character's
just
way faster in this game and way more controllable, so you're not stuck into these situations where you can't get out of his hitbox in time because the game's so clunky. So I think it's just every monster translated well too. I don't think there's a single monster I can think of off the top of my head that they added in Iceborne that I like hated fighting. You know, I mean, there's some that are bad, but you know, they still.
Not to mention, every monster has like an interaction with each other, right? The turf wars are like really cool.
Yep, and they're actually different too, because they don't play out the same way every time now.
They don't.
Sometimes one monster wins, sometimes the other monster wins.
And then sometimes it's a draw.
Sometimes it's a draw. Yeah. I did just think of one actually that I really did not like, and it's the moose monster or whatever. Bombaro. I fucking hate that thing.
Yeah, that monster was a fucking I think that was a ass monster.
I think that was a really lazy. They did not finish that monster. Like, it has very few animations. It has very few attacks. It's just a reskin of Uragan, and its hitboxes are weird, and also its animations. It gets like it spazzes out sometimes.
Yeah.
When it's like turning around, sometimes it just kind of like I almost feel like I'm in a horror movie where all of a sudden it's like looking one direction and then it just turns 90 degrees without actually like having an animation there.
Yeah.
That monster that is definitely the one monster I can think of that they kind of missed on, but otherwise they did a phenomenal job, especially with the Elder Dragons.
Oh yeah. Like, my favorite monster was Nargacuga. That's one of my favorite monsters. In Monster Hunter. And man, when they remade the theme, I listened to that theme outside of Monster Hunter because that's such a good theme. I know you didn't really play the Freedom Unite 2 game, but it incorporates some aspects of that main village, into the song. So it was just so nostalgic for me because you meet it in that game.
That's
and
awesome.
It was just so nostalgic for me. Not to mention they remade all of the other Monster Hunter themes, the Glavness theme they remade.
Yep.
Zynoger's theme, Tyrex's theme, and they all fit within the realms of Monster Hunter World.
God, you're making me want to go back and play this game right now, dude.
The only major gripe we had with the game was maybe the story. The story was still nonsensical at this point.
It's just not what we're coming to Monster Hunter for. As much as we want it to get better, it's not that important.
Yeah, it's not. And that's the only thing I really didn't like about it was the gatekeeping they did between the story thing.
Yes, there was definitely a lot of that. Well, even with the master rank, the rankings, there was a lot of gatekeeping with that too that we never even got past, actually. Going back to the music real quick, though, I do want to call out the Guiding Lands theme. Dude, what a phenomenal track! If anybody listen to this, just type in Monster Hunter World Guiding Lands theme in YouTube and just listen to that theme.
That's a really good theme. I forgot about that theme.
It's the best theme in the entire game, in my opinion. It integrates all of the areas into the theme, like all the other areas individually into the Guiding Lands theme. And dude, it's just such a good song. It's so good.
Well, speaking of the Guiding Lands, that was an addition that we didn't even see coming because we
Completely
went
out of
into this
nowhere.
game dark. We knew about like maybe 10 or 15 monsters getting added into it, but then we went dark. But then the Guiding Lands and then the additional augmentation you can do to your weapons and armor was just like icing on the cake for us. We were just like,
and we didn't get all the way through it. So there's going to be a time, I think, in the next few months that you and I are probably going to go back to this game.
Yeah, we're gonna get that itch.
We're gonna get that itch, and we're gonna fall into this rabbit hole again, big time, because they're continuing to support this game. They just added 2 new monsters. In fact, a variant to Zynoger, Stygian Zynoger, and then they added a new Dragon Siege, Safi Jiva, which it's like the Kulve Taroth from the base game.
Yep.
They just added that. They're adding more monsters as well in the coming months. It's just, dude, the level of support they've given to Monster Hunter World is crazy. This is one of the best games on the planet, period.
Yeah, I thought this game was robbed of the Game Awards, especially for ongoing online games.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't even believe it wasn't even in the top 5.
They gave it to Destiny 2. Right?
Yeah.
What a fucking joke, dude.
I think that was one of the biggest misses of that game awards. I was really disappointed in that. I was really disappointed that it wasn't even in the nomination. It wasn't even nominated.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
This game is amazing. Because everyone that goes back into it, even people who weren't into Monster Hunter, like, they go back and they're like, man, they added so much shit. I'm about to start hunting again. Like, it's on my timeline. Like, months after the game came out, people are going back to play this game, and they're like, holy shit, Iceborne added like 40 new monsters and a new land and stuff like that. And I just don't know a more dedicated team than a Monster Hunter team. Like,
yeah. Well, dude, think about this. They added the volcano region to the Guiding Lands, like, literally a month after the game came out. And then they added a Hoarfrost Reach region to the Guiding Lands this month when Stygian Xenorger came out.
The year's not even out yet. And
they're fucking nuts, dude. I don't even know what are their plans going forward. Like, those are huge additions, and they're what more are they going to add, dude? Like, I can't. I'm continuously blown away by the things they announce. Like, I can't believe it. Like, they're treating this game like a live service game. Yeah, they're treating this game like a live service game, but it's all free. It's I think the only thing I'm going to say that I'm really disappointed by is that Monster Hunter World Iceborne is coming out on PC in a couple weeks, and I don't think it's going to have cross save with the console versions of the game, and that is a huge disappointment for me. Yeah, because we have friends that are going to be playing it on PC, and we're not going to be able to transfer our characters over to them. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Very unlikely we're going to play with them on PC because I'm not rebuying the game.
I have 200 plus hours.
Yeah, I'm not rebuying the game if I have to play everything again. So that is kind of my one disappointment with it, but that's not really. I don't. That's not the game's fault. It's just their decision, I think, as a team. So, but dude, I don't know. I could talk about this game for freaking 3 hours.
I just really hope everyone listening out there, 20 listeners, you guys give it a chance and play it. It's a really good game. It's one of those games that may feel intimidating to get into, but this game really streamlines a lot of stuff that we had issues with the older games, and that's why the older games are harder to get to for newer people. But I think this game is a great addition for people who just want to get into it and want to see what it's about and just play it. I know it was free at one point on PlayStation Plus, but I think they took it off. But
I mean, you can get it. You can probably get it on console like
$20.
At least $40 at this point, but it might even be 30 or 20. So
yeah, I just really want to express how disappointed I was at the Game Awards that this was not nominated at all.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's such a like.
Not to knock the other games, because those were some good games, but they had Borderlands 3 on that list. It was nominated for
what? Yeah, it's not even like an ongoing game. I don't.
So
the game had just come out.
And then Division 2 Shadow, what was it called, Shadowrun or something like that? That Division 2 whole revamp thing. I mean, it's pretty good, but not to the degree that Iceborne did.
Just completely changed the game.
Yeah, they added a new mechanic that, like you said, completely changes how you play the game. Yeah.
Yep.
And
which we had a problem with at first, but I think we kind of grew on us over time.
Yeah, now I can't see myself without it.
Right. I can't even envision playing the game without that thing. So I think it does work. It's awkward to use sometimes still. I still believe that, but that's something that they can easily improve in the next game. So
yeah, exactly.
And I think it works well enough that it isn't obtrusive.
Yep.
So I mean, any other thoughts, I guess, on Monster Hunter World Iceborne?
Oh man, it definitely got my game of the year.
The Players Takes Game of the Year, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, which is an expansion to an existing game, not a brand new game, but it is so good, so full of content. It has more content than most of the games that we talked about today.
It feels like a brand new game. It
does
really
feel like a brand new game. It's
just coming off a World. It left not a bad taste in my mouth, but it left me wanting more. I was just like,
it didn't have enough. It wasn't fleshed out enough.
It wasn't enough to do. And then when Iceborne came out, it completely changed the way you play the game and how you approach things and things of that nature.
Yep.
And I was completely blown away. So
all right. Well, that's going to be it for us, guys. That is our Game of the Year discussion for 2019. It was a lot. That was a lot of games we just talked about. But I will say overall, I mean, what are your feelings overall with 2019? I kind of think this year was largely, honestly, disappointing for me. I think this was one of the, dude, this just does not compare to 2018, particularly 2017, 2016, and 2015. I think those 3 years are really the peak of this generation. And I think this generation has really kind of sagged a little bit. Like, this year is definitely one that sticks out to me. I'm hoping next year's a lot better, and I think it will be. In terms of high-quality games, but there was just so many games that disappointed this year for me.
Yeah, 2019 was definitely a weird year of, like, for just gaming in general.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a weird year between a war between the consumers and the producers.
Yeah.
All the microtransaction bullshit that was going on that still continue to go on. I think that bleed into a lot of our games and our viewpoint of games and our mindsets on gaming. And we still have that kind of mentality. It's still an ongoing war for that. And this whole overall negative attitude that I feel that the gaming industry has right now towards each other, from the consumer side and from the producing side of things, or the publishing side of things and developing side of things. Even the media surrounding gaming is, to a degree, just,
it's gotten more toxic, I would say.
Yeah, and the games really didn't add. The first half of 2019 really didn't add to that.
Oh man,
it was
what a
really
rough
slow. Oh my!
The first 5 months of the year were so rough, dude.
I'll even say the first six.
Yeah.
Because when did Fire Emblem came out in July?
It was the end of July. That was really when the year kind of started for me.
Yeah, that's when. Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Oh, because you know what? The first half of the year was Resident Evil 2 for me and Devil May Cry 5.
But yeah, for me, it's a lot worse. It's a lot more stark for me. The only games that I really liked in the first half of the year were Wargroove, Grim Dawn's expansion, and for Felseal.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I didn't finish Wargroove. I kind of fell out of Wargroove until like July.
Yeah.
So that game doesn't even really count towards the beginning of the year for me. And then Felseal I didn't play till June, and I didn't really play it because of events that happened in my life. So that game I didn't play like really in depth until recently. And then Grim Dawn's really the only one that I did play a lot at the time when it came out. So, dude, up until Fire Emblem came out, dude, this year was really not great for games for me for the most part. So it's kind of been a weird year because, ever since July, it's been a just rapid fire of good games that I've been playing, and it's good that it happened that way. But I am definitely going to remember this year as probably one of the lower end years of the generation for sure. I mean, it's above 2013 and 2014, but I mean, that's not saying a lot because those years were completely barren for the most part.
I just think this year, I don't want to say it was the worst. I just think a lot of things got exposed, and a lot of things came to fruition that we wish weren't true. Like, we all had an inkling about a lot of things in the industry, and even the developers themselves had an inkling about stuff that it was in the industry. We didn't want to believe it was true, but unfortunately it was. And affecting our overall mood on gaming in general. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this year was more so just a really bad atmosphere surrounding gaming.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming off 2 years of like Battlefront 2 and then all these microtransaction issues from last year. And I mean, as you said, it's continued with Madden continuing to do what they do, 2K20, NBA 2K20 continuing to do what they do, FIFA continuing to do what they do, and then Kingdom Hearts coming out and not feeling like a complete game, and then now they're releasing a DLC to kind of finish the game, and it's just bad practice for a lot of these companies with some of the stuff they're doing in terms of microtransactions and DLC, and then even Borderlands, with their DLC model, as much as I think it's good, they didn't make a great game, so it's harder to swallow the pill of a $40 expansion pass. With that game, so I don't know. It's definitely been a weird year in terms of because even Monster Hunter, honestly, like it took them releasing a $40 expansion pack for that game to become great.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was a 2018 game that was a full $60 price tag on it. So I don't know. I don't look at this year super fondly when I think about it. I mean, those top two of Fire Emblem and Monster Hunter World are definitely going to be in my conversation of games of the decade, but everything else is not really even going to sniff the list probably for me. So it's definitely not been a high quality year in terms of like amazing experiences either. So
Yeah, I see. I think this is where we differ. I feel like it was a mix for me. I had a lot of high quality games come out this year that I've been waiting for to come out because there are a lot of games that almost got killed
yeah,
this decade.
well, franchises, yeah, right.
Yeah, franchises that got almost killed this decade. Devil May Cry being one of them that just
Well,
came
Resident
back.
Evil as well.
Yeah, and Resident Evil. Yeah, that just came back. Especially like, and then you had like Mega Man Collection come back because that died this decade, and then it just came back. So like, I think the Capcom arc, because I'm a huge Capcom fan and I love their games. I think they really surprised me.
That's been fun to watch. They're definitely, their resurgence definitely kind of crescendoed this year.
Yeah,
I feel like, and I don't think that crescendo is going to end anytime soon for them. So
yeah, I think they definitely learned their lesson from the earlier this decade, like
DMC
how to
and all that. Yeah, and Resident Evil 6.
But that would be a discussion on our decade. That would be an interesting discussion on our decade because I have a lot of stuff to talk about with this gaming decade in general.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, let's table it there. I think that's a good place to stop. So, if you like this episode, please like the episode, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on. And if you could, please share it with your friends. We would like to grow the audience. If you would like to interact with either of us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrapForTheHokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I am at ThunderNut01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you would like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And next week, as Montrell kind of alluded to, we are going to be doing our Game of the Decade discussion, and that is going to be, I'm going to be honest with you, I have a feeling that is going to be one of our meatiest episodes in a long time, because we're going to talk about a lot of games that we have never discussed, more than likely, and we were probably going to talk about trends within the decade, like you were talking about within that episode. So there's going to be a lot of interesting discussions there. I have battered this man down, and we're going to be doing 10 games each because 5 is just not going to be enough when we're talking about an entire decade of video games. So expect that next week, guys. And that's going to be it for us, I think. So we hope you enjoyed this one, and we will see you on the next one. All right. Bye, guys.
Peace.